All right, this is the PPHS lab that we're at right now. I'm Luke. I'm gonna be interviewing you today. Uh, tell me a bit about yourself to start.
First of all, you guys are here by Coach Edge, your teacher, Mr. Edge. I'm
Yes.
surprised this isn't called the Edge of PPHS. Maybe we need to think about
We
that.
we
I
might
don't
need
know.
to switch to that
But I
name.
don't
That
know.
sounds a lot more appealing.
Well, I'm happy to be here because Coach Edge is the one that invited me, so he's kind of a legend around my parts. So thank you for having me on. Thank you for
Absolutely.
letting me work with Coach Edge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So just like get things going a little. What are some? Tell me a bit about yourself. Like a bit about your life. What got you from point A to point B?
Yeah.
Just some basic details.
Sure. I think it started. My dad was a teacher. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so I had a really, really fun childhood. And my first job, my first really major in college, I was not an educator, and that was cool. And I'd go to bed some nights, and like my career goals and really my life goals was to be as fun and as involved as my dad was. And so I was like, man, I kind of want to teach. You're not really supposed to say you want to be a teacher for the summer breaks, but that was one of my driving factors. Like I want to be as fun and spend as much time as my dad would with Kathy and I. And so yeah, I went into education, and maybe the best piece of advice he gave me, and I felt bad because my mom and dad had paid for all my college, and now I'm married and I'm thinking about going back to college to get my degree. So I'm not asking him for money, but I am saying like, hey man, I appreciate that first degree, but I'm going back and get another one. And he's like, he still calls me Donnie. He's like, Donnie, I don't care if you teach for the next 20 years. Don't teach 1 year 20 times. And I'm seeing the camera and go, that's deep. And so I listened to him. Like I didn't really know what he meant until all of a sudden I started realizing that some of the teachers that may not have liked what they did it the same way year after year after year. And I was like, I don't want to be that. And then I kind of even recapped in my mind, I even though my dad was a teacher, I struggled in school, and I'm a teacher. But sometimes when I struggled is because looking back, it's just that I didn't have a subject like interest. And sometimes like a good teacher makes you really interested in that subject.
Yeah.
I didn't have that with some teachers. So promised myself I wouldn't be like that. And I just started a really bizarre class, which we'll get into. But that was the upbringing, man. That was like I want to be a teacher, to be a family guy, and then and also a teacher that I've appreciated because, spoiler alert, I'm in my 50s, like younger 50s for those keeping
Younger
track.
50s.
Younger 50s. But like they didn't have the term ADD back then. I'm really sure that was my ADD joke. I was distracted.
Yeah.
By something. Thank you. But no, I mean, like I struggled in school because I have a lot of thoughts up here. There's a lot going on, and I'm getting some smiles from your cameraman. They're like, "Dear God, that's me as well." But no, I struggled a little bit in school, not horribly, but it was a struggle. So wanted to be the teacher I liked in school.
You talk with a lot of purpose. Like you know you know where you're coming from, you know where you're at, and you know where you're going. I remember watching your TEDx talk at Purdue. I think we'll talk on a bit more
Sure.
things on that
Sure.
in a minute, but you talk with a lot of purpose. What would you say your purpose is?
I'm going to separate that between my personal life and my professional life, and there's a little bit of blend in both. Most importantly, to be the most loving father and husband I can be. That literally, everything else flows from that. If my wife thinks that I'm awesome, and if you met my wife, you would know how good in sales I am, because this woman had no business saying yes to me. She's better than me in every way. But so the best loving husband and father I can be. Secondly, a professional. I didn't like school. I struggled. I know the irony of that, right? But like professionally, I want more things to probably feel more like what Mr. Edge is doing. I wanted to create a zone in my classroom where, and this is like kind of the beginnings of the innovation and open source learning class, but like I felt so good for the 25 students that were in that room, but like I was in a school of 3,000. So there's a lot of other people like, I kind of want to do. So my purpose really, and what my drive is that I want to start up these ecosystems, the kind of thing that we're doing here today. And again, I want to give kudos to what you guys are doing. You guys are on school time doing a podcast. Like, you know how many students across the world aren't doing that? Like, you have time to do this. Ironically, I'm kind of living out my purpose by being here October 24th.
I had to check the date multiple times today too.
Sure,
It's okay.
sure. So, like, I'm living my purpose right here, right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a nice thing.
Well, but seriously, I'll throw it back at you. Isn't this cool?
Oh, yeah.
That you get to do this?
I love doing this. It's amazing. I get to do a lot of what I want to do. I've been interning since freshman year.
Yeah.
At Horner. Like, that was just, like, crazy to me. I couldn't even imagine that. I've learned so many things from them, and it's just, like, it's been a very important part of my life because we had come here to get a different experience because traditional school systems had to kind of let me down a little bit, and I got that experience.
But you know what? I'm listening to you, and as you're talking, as met your crew here, like, you guys are already ahead of the game on what we get feedback on, what employers and what people want to see. You guys have all looked at me in the eyes and talked to me. Like, no joke. We get feedback of like, hey, we're looking for interns that can stay, like, get engaged and be off their phone. So I can only imagine how proud your intern people are that you've been with them, that you can communicate. Really cool skill that a lot of people aren't having, not have much command on anymore.
It's actually funny because I have issues with eye contact, so I work on it, and I hope it's been a bit better. Nothing's awkward, but...
I mean, we could make it awkward the whole...
Okay.
No. Stare at each other the rest of the show.
One of the things you talked about in your TEDx talk was that you snuck in on NFL Open Media Day.
Maybe one of the most fun days of my life. Thank you for asking me about that. Thank you for the research. Yeah, I mean, I taught at a school where we had a lot of really good video equipment. And by the way, this is before the DSLR days, which ironically, you guys are filming on what is called DSLRs, right? Those are nice cameras. But back then, broadcast cameras, this is, by the way, like, not that, well, I guess in your terms, it was a long time ago, because we hosted the Super Bowl as, like, what, 2012? Something like that. Mostly they were still broadcast cameras where you had a shoulder mount, and then, like, you had a boom mic operator, where the boom mic, right? And so we had this idea that the Super Bowl was in town, and I just let my students, and thank God my principal was really, really awesome about this, but like one day we just let them, it was like the downtown was buzzing, and they just wanted to do man on the street reporting, and we got this idea that there was media day, and this was the first year that they were selling tickets to media day, and so we bought tickets, but I'm like, we're going to get in. We're going to get on the floor. By the way, we also had we had a knack. We were asking for press passes a lot. There's this thing called Ruoff or Deer Creek. We were asking for press passes. But we had the whole crew. We had an anchor that had a suit and tie on. We had a boom mic operator. We had a camera guy. And so we looked professional. And we were going from person to person to person. Like, we were finding a lot of famous people on ESPN. And we were interviewing anyone that looked familiar. And they were like, Chris Berman, whomever, and they're like, dude, that was great. Your kids are awesome. Like, you have a pass to get in? And they're like, no. But you guys are awesome. I'm like, well, we've got seats, which is strange to think about. They sold seats to watch people do press interviews. But no matter. I'm like, we're going to get in. And if you watch the TED Talk, you know this happens. But like I had recognized, I'd watched 60 Minutes the night before, maybe 2 nights before. And this guy named DeMaurice Smith, and he was the NFL Players Association president. He, in the pantheon of NFL importance, he's number 2. Roger Goodell being the most important, and probably this guy number 2. And so I recognized him, and I'm like, Tyler, go grab that guy. And I'll never forget it because no one knew who he was. And he yells out, Mr. Smith, we'd like to interview you. And he just keeps walking. And he doesn't pay attention. He's like, sorry, Dave. He doesn't know who said it. He's sorry, guys. Today's about the players. And plus, there was some union talks about them going, not enough money or whatever. And then I'll just never forget it. He goes, I'm just a kid.
I actually have that written down right here. I was about to ask you about that.
But how, by the way, and I'm talking to, I know this is weird because people are seeing on this side, but on the other side, there's students. And so I'm talking to you guys specifically. When the student said that, his expectation of who was asking changed. And when he said, I'm just a kid and I'm here for my school, immediately his heart softened, which is really important. He was in the moment and understood. And then he turned around and he saw professional people. We weren't just there to go, what's up, bro? We were like, we had cameras. We were dressed like we were trying to get in. And the guy's like, oh, okay. And we interview him. And when it's over, I'm like, dude, that was awesome. Thank you. He's like, you must be so proud. Great crew. And then he said, I'll see you on the inside. And I'm like, well, that's the funny thing is, not everybody else, I was asking them for press passes. I didn't have a chance. And he goes, well, I'll see you on the inside. And I'm like, that's the funny thing. We don't have any. And he gets out and he gets his business card and he writes down his cell phone number. And he goes, go to gate 2. If they give you any grief, have them call me. And of course, we went to gate 2. They gave us grief. Yes, Mr. Smith. I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. Absolutely, Mr. Smith. You guys are free to go. And then all of a sudden, a couple minutes later, I had my students interviewing Tom Brady. Like, it's just the strangest day ever. Yeah.
That's that's a lot to take in. That's
Oh, a little bit of mic drop on his part. Go ahead.
Little mic drop.
Oh, there we go. You're good now.
We're all good now?
Yeah. So, yeah, heck of a day. Heck of a day.
I believe you were on another podcast at some point. It was the Getting Smart podcast. Something you had said there was we have a culture problem where it just feels too good to complain.
Oh, man, but yeah. I want to turn that on you. What did you think when you heard that?
I initially, upon hearing that kind of stuck with me because I felt like that almost resonated with me a bit. Because I most definitely have not always been this way. I've taken a lot of big strides in the past few years, and I know a few years ago I was definitely in that mentality. I just stuff was going bad in my life. A lot of things were happening. Like, it was just a really bad, huge chunk out of my childhood, and it was just it felt good to complain because I just wanted to be heard and stuff like that. But at the same time, because I was so busy wallowing in defeat and complaining, I never did anything about it and took any action.
I want everyone to listen that is listening to that to really reflect on what you said, because I don't blame you, but it's a trap. When we complain, we feel temporarily better about ourselves. And when we do nothing about it, it leads to the ultimate frustration. And that's the problem. And plus, there's something cool about saying when something sucks, as opposed to saying when something is good. No one likes to admit when something is good. You know, I joke about this. I'm like, when I ask people, what bands do you hate? Everybody, actually, I'll say this: what bands do you love? And everybody struggles. Oh, I mean, Pearl Jam. I don't know, but I'm like, what bands suck? Nickelback. I'm like, what did Nickelback ever do to you? But everybody likes to. It's cool to rip on something because it takes no follow through and it takes no conviction. It takes no courage. To say something is awesome takes courage. And so when you're like, yeah, everything sucks, and it gives you this temporary feeling of an excuse. I'm not successful because this person is, and it feels good. The sad fact is no one cares. And you've given yourself permission to not move forward. So I love that reflection is you said temporarily, and you know, it felt good for a while. But for the rest of us, knowing that okay, we got it out. I didn't like this. Totally, I hated it. Therefore, I must. And so if you have the therefore I must, you're good. And so how did you get through it? You said you temporarily felt better. I mean, how did you get through it?
Ooh, it was definitely a long process. I'd gotten here and we had just finished moving because my mom had just gotten divorced a second time. There was a whole lot of rough details with it. But I was just getting out of that when I first started coming to this school. And I remember nearing the end of that school year, I was still struggling with a lot, but my brother had one morning dragged me out of my room and said, "Why are you sad?" He said, "Don't be a loser, bro." And and then he started dragging me to the gym every single morning for it was 3 months straight. And every single morning on the way there, we would talk about life and stuff like that. And I didn't, at the time, I had a certain perspective that I had. I looked at things from a lot of different angles than he did. Me and my brother, we are very different. He struggles with things I don't. I struggle with things he doesn't. It's very
complementary, it sounds like.
Yes, when we worked together, we worked together extremely well because of that. But he, every single morning, we'd talk about what's your purpose?
Yeah.
What do you want to do when you get up in the morning? What are you going to do when it gets rough? Are you going to work through it, or are you going to sit there and, in his words, be a loser?
Yeah.
It was just and some people might think, oh, that's a really rough thing to say. But for my brother saying that to me, I completely understood exactly what he was saying.
Sure.
And it was just that was what I needed at the time. And since then, I've been gradually working a lot more on working on myself, what I'm doing. I still don't exactly know what I specifically want for my future because I'm actively working on it.
Sure.
And putting in a ton of steps to do what I want and what I love. And it's been a long process. It's been a lot of improvement. It's been a lot of revisiting things I've currently been doing and things I've done to see ways I could do it better or treat myself better and give myself more rest at the same time. And it was,
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad. I mean, that movement and that just being. I mean, obviously, it's compassion when your brother is being brutal and beating you over the head with it. Quit being a loser. But two things happened. One, he called you to action, and two, you took action. I'm also, you wouldn't know this. I'm trying to stay in better shape, but the act of exercising, just moving, is so important. Your brain fires at a better capacity. So, good for you and your brother, man. Shout out to your bro. Quit being a loser.
His name is John. He's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Maybe get your secondary podcast. Luke's Don't Be a Loser podcast.
Luke's Don't Be a Loser.
Don't be a loser. What are you doing? Do you even lift, bro?
In your TEDx talk, you highlighted the importance of finding your passion. What were pivotal moments in you finding your passion, aside from what you grew up with and some things that you saw while you were teaching?
I mean, it's hard. One, give yourself permission that you can have several and that they'll change. When I was your age, I still had some hope that I was going to be, playing for the Cincinnati Reds somehow, even though I wasn't good enough to start varsity. So my passions have changed. And honestly, my priorities have changed, my interests have changed, and that's okay. I think it's really, because remember when you guys were young and everybody went through a dinosaur phase? That's cool. And then eventually one day you're I don't like dinosaurs. I mean, it's not like you don't like dinosaurs, but Barney let us all down. So, super duper. Anyway, but no, I think your passions can change. I think the hardest thing though, Luke, is when you build a friend group around those interests, that if you start losing interest, you might accidentally lose friends. And ironically enough, that's okay too. And I mean this sincerely. If you want to be better and you're trying to improve yourself, know that there'll be some people that fall off and aren't happy for you. It's a really cruel thing that success can make people. You can outgrow your friends, unfortunately. Some. So I think that your passions can change. They can switch. They can be temporary, and that's fine. I think the most sustainable one for me is, I think it's been about 14 years now. I decided to start a whole new class, and it just kept evolving to maybe it should be its own class, to we should be doing this more in school, and we should just doing this school-wide. And so that's my most sustainable passion. This has been existing now since 14, 15 years at this point.
How did you get the Started Up Foundation up and going?
Ironically, it involves, so at first I was just writing and talking about it. And ironically, one of my former students who had just graduated said, "Can I help you? You're going to one school at a time and you're going to one conference at a time. How about we collate things together and have like a package for you?" And that's Hunter. And he would, was 19. And so we started dabbling around with some stuff. We recruited two other people that were closer to my age. We just kept working on things. And we just kept plugging away and got a couple lucky breaks here and there. And then maybe we'll get into building a network. But we had met and interviewed quite a few people that were known. And then some people wanted us to grow this, and there were some state leaders of like, "Hey, what you've done for this one school, maybe we can take this statewide." And so the state of Indiana kind of got involved, and they wanted to grow and scale something, and they had a pitch competition that they wanted us to collaborate on, and then we kind of, made it into something a little bit different and a little bit bigger, and kind of took off from there.
What did you have to, because you were teaching for quite a few amount of years, right?
Yep.
I'm guessing you're not teaching like that anymore.
June 2nd, 2019 was my last official day. So I missed the pandemic thing. I know. I felt almost guilty about it, by the way. But yeah, I was given kind of an ultimatum that this was starting to really take off. And somebody had pointed out that I could be a really good teacher running an okay organization, or have a really good organization and just be a not so great teacher. You can't serve two masters, kind of thing. And so I knew there's a chance of this develop. I would never met you guys. I felt bad because I missed being in the classroom. Like Mr. Edge, I loved having this great relationships, and I had yearly I had a class that would do videography and things like this. But I went from going from having 180 students to 20,000.
What kind of things did you have to give up on a personal level to do that?
This fun. You know how excited I was today to leave my office? I love my team. I love working with people over 20, I guess. But I miss this. I miss the brainstorms. I miss the, what we could do? It'd be awesome. What we should totally try? I miss the, let's reach out to so-and-so and see if she'll get back with us or he'll get back with us or whatever. I miss that daily excitement. So,
I could probably get that. We've had Robert here before.
Oh my gosh, good for you.
Oh yeah, great guy. He showed us an editing software that we ended up using for the little movie that we filmed. He's he knows how to speak very well and explain himself and what he's interested in, what he does.
Yeah.
How was it witnessing him grow up?
Among the more proud things, I love that guy. Yeah. So it is great. I think, and I've said this so many times, and I always mean it. Like when I had my students, I usually say this for the last day of school, but my favorite part of being your teacher begins tomorrow. I love the fact that I have so many former students in my life still. I love the fact that I can get invited to weddings. I love keeping track with people. Plus we had this fun little rule. And by the way, Robert owes me dinner now that I think about it. We had this rule that I'm like, hey, if you've done really well, I don't care if you've made millions, you owe me dinner. And so from time to time, I'll get these random calls and like, hey, Mr. Wettrick, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard from you. And I know what they're like. So I'm coming into town and dinner's on me. I'm like, yes. And then, by the way, the rule was not Chipotle. Not that I don't like Chipotle. I like Chipotle. But the dinner needs to be nice. So Robert owes me dinner. But I'm really proud of him. But I'm proud of so many students that have made really interesting. And by the way, I also don't mean financially either. I have some students that are really doing what they want, and they're really doing well, but they're not necessarily on the news, and they don't have a Ferrari, nor does Robert, by the way. So it's not a financial thing either. It's a life fulfillment. Somebody was talking, I was listening to somebody's podcast, and he said, man, there's a difference between rich and wealth. Rich means you can buy something that makes other people feel jealous. Wealth is you can make your own decisions and you have the freedom to do what you want. And you also have the freedom to be nice, which I'm always hoping people will do. So I like the fact that some of my students are really leading lives of wealth. It may not be money, but is lives of wealth.
I love that explanation. I don't think I've heard that explanation before. I think
Yeah.
that cuts deep.
I led a really wealthy life in the childhood. I've been to 49 of the 50 states. My dad was a teacher. My mom stayed at home. So we didn't swim in money, but we prioritized life experiences. So I had a very wealthy childhood.
Sometimes running, not sometimes, I would guess running something like Startup Foundation or anything of that sort would be kind of hard. Is there any, are there any parts of it that just keep you up at night some nights?
Yeah, fundraising. I need to do a better job of interviewing you guys to see the impact that Mr. Edge can make. What I do sometimes I think is too much like a well-paved road. What I mean by that is, who likes well-paved roads? Everyone. Who wants to pay for them? Well, the governor should pay for that. We do get some help from the state government. I'm happy and pleased. But we're trying to diversify I'm a nonprofit. So grants, corporate, and donations. So when people are like, I love what you guys do you want to contribute? Oh, that should be the school. They should pay for it. We don't charge schools for this. So that does stress me out, is that people fall over themselves saying how excited they are that our programming. It's converting them over to, and then part of the reason is that they're hearing about it from me. So if they get to meet you guys, then they're like, oh my gosh. And I think that's what converts people a little easier. So by no means am I freaking out like we're, going broke. But at the same time, it is always nonprofits, they got to bring it in. So unless we want to go to the model of just, charging parents. And, I think a lot of parents, they have to worry about other things. So being a nonprofit is not easy.
What's the biggest mistake you're grateful for?
That's a great question. Keeping this PG. Cannot believe I'm going to share it. I cannot believe I'm going to share the story. How old are you?
17.
Okay. I think I was either late 15 or early 16. And I decided to go to a house party. Life was different back in the early 90s. And there was some raucousness going on. And there were some people that had been drinking. And the cops come. And everybody runs. Some people didn't. I didn't. I decided to say something stupid to the police officers. And they let everybody go except for me. And they're like, we're going to make this night. I won't say exactly what they said, but it's going to be unpleasant. And they weren't pleasant. And they had my dad come and pick me up. And my dad is a very prideful person, and he's raised me the right way. And my dad comes to pick me up, and they're telling him what kind of an idiot son that they have, how embarrassed you must be. I mean, he's laying it on like I can't. The language was much more grandiose, but my dad just kept saying, "I know, sir. And he's been raised better, and I'm sorry, sir," and whatever. And I'll never forget it. So I get in the car, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to get yelled at." And he says, "Nothing." Quietest ride home. And I'm like, please yell at me. Please say something. And I learned a lot about myself that night. I don't really drink. I guess a lot has to do with it. I reflected about my life. I reflected on some of the decisions I was making at 16. And cut to the chase, I'm grounded now for quite a while. So much so that I'm grounded for, like, I think they said at first 3 months. You know how parents are. They'll say that, and then eventually they'll get sick of you, and like, oh, you're ungrounded. But I was grounded for a while. And there was this girl in my science class that I promised myself I would ask her out, but I was chicken because she's, I'm not an attractive guy, and she was. Oh, she's not an attractive guy. She's an attractive girl. And thank you. And so I'm like, this is my opportunity. I'll ask her out knowing that she'll say no, because no one asks anybody out 3 months in advance. And so I call her. I'm like, hey, I heard you hear about the party? Yeah. Dude, I'm grounded for so long. I'm grounded until like March. And I know this is crazy, and I know you're going to say no. But, like, you want to go out and, like, I don't know, see a movie or something? She's my wife.
That's insane.
My girlfriend, my sophomore year, became my wife. I never would have asked her out had I not been taken to the police station and grounded for 3 months. That is my greatest mistake.
That hits so deep.
You know that girl you met named Ava? She wouldn't be on this earth.
Oh. I need to process that.
I'm enjoying the. No, I mean, like, I'm sitting here going, this isn't necessarily an appropriate thing to bring up in podcast, but, like, I'm so glad you asked that, because like, anybody listening to this and people in this room, always remember, your worst day ever can be your best if you choose it. Let me repeat that. Your worst day ever can be the best if you choose it. The lady that had the leg bitten off by the shark, she makes a lot of money talking about overcoming her leg being, like, the worst thing that can happen to you, if you choose to, like, champion it, it's yours. How many famous people are like, yeah, I got kicked out of blah, 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 and now I do the blah. The obstacle is your gold. And I made a dumb decision, and I turned it into a marriage and 3 kids. Hooray!
That reminds me of something I heard one time, and it was that happiness is a state and not a feeling.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a mindset, because feelings are fleeting. I also know people that can be happy in any place they are. You're hitting on a lot of things, because people like, that's kind of my standard. Like, people are like, hey, Don, how you doing? I'm like, I'm happy. And it always makes people go, what? I'm like, it's genuine. Like, that's just my default. Like, how you doing, Don? I'm happy.
That actually caught me off guard a little bit, because I don't think I've ever heard somebody just directly say that right off the bat.
Actually, did I say that when I said it came in the door? Yeah, that's right. I said it to you. But that's my default. And generally, that's my default setting. Like, if I'm not happy, it's really rare. But and then this isn't, like, one, it's the way I'm wired, I think. But, like, I really am grateful. Like, there's a lot of things, if I really compare myself against other people, of things I don't have. But I'm really grateful what I have. So I'm happy. Matter of fact, when people, if you're in a really good mood, when people, like, because the default answer is, well, I'm fine. Fine means nothing. Like, answer people are like, dude, I'm happy. Or like, I'm so freaking excited to be here. Like, what the heck? You're a little over. Yeah.
I'm guessing setting up the startup foundation, or just some of the general ways you were teaching, did you ever get, like, some serious pushback from the education system?
Tons. Yeah.
What's probably, like, the worst amount of pushback you've gotten before from the education system?
You're making me recall some stories. That there was one student, and actually I just reached out to him. Funny is, this week, I haven't talked to him in like 10 years, but this was a really bizarre class we started, and it was free of, I mean, it was its own thing. There wasn't a part of any department, and there was and I felt bad about it, but I had a young man who was very good at school, but didn't necessarily, he would rather be in my room working on things like this. And so one day he raised his hand and he said to this teacher, could you just give me the test now so I can ace it? I'd like to leave. And then she goes, oh, and where do you think you're going? And he said, Mr. Wettrick's room, to work on things that are actually meaningful. The term actually made her so mad. And so after school, she marched down there and she's like, "Can you believe he said that?" What I should have said is, "I can't believe that. I'm so sorry." But what I said was, "Did you give him the test?" "What do you mean?" He asked, "I could ace this thing right now. Did you give him the test?" She's like, "Well, he pretended like it was a struggle for him to sit through it, and that my class was she didn't panic." And I'm like, well, that was kind of what he's saying. Like, why would you want him to sit through it if he could? If the point of him was to get an A, and he said I could get an A right now without having to listen to you, why didn't you just give him the test? She then said, "Well, you just think that your class is so important." And then I said, "It is." She never talked to me again. I understand why. But I stand by it. If the point of you offering something is to get a good grade, and he says, "I can go ahead and get the good grade right now," I would rather spend my time working on a project that is meaningful and special to me. I already know this. I couldn't imagine sitting through something as an adult of saying, "Don, we want to make sure that you know how to, your times table's up to 10. And we're going to, over the next 3 weeks, make sure you know it." Like, dude, I can do it right now. "Nope, we're going to elongate this for 3 weeks." And you're like, no, I can do it right now. I would much rather do other things. Nope. That was his point. It got me into some trouble. Well, I didn't. So I regretfully, unfortunately, I probably could have had better relationships with a few people. And I felt bad because I wasn't saying that they were bad. I was just saying that I understood that kid's desire to move on and check something off the box and then have time to do the things he wanted to do. That was a low point. Yeah.
Think. You've given me a lot to think on too.
That's all good.
You're very good at recalling a lot of the things that I've been.
There's so many stories up here. There's so many stories up here. And for that matter, I'll look at our producer and say, okay, they want us to wrap. I think that, like, we've gone this has been a great episode. Time has flown by. But the producers are, all right. So let's have our wrap up question.
Wrap up question?
What we got?
Let's just think of one right now.
Unless we have that mic, if someone here wants to ask a question.
I think I have a question.
All right.
What's your approach on discipline and controlling yourself?
I'm not good at it. And I try to find people that will help me be accountable. My wife is good at reminding me of things that sometimes, and by the way, in a non-naggy way, I don't want to paint a picture. She's wonderful. We hired somebody real recently, Sarah. Like, these are the things that you said you needed to do, and I'm making sure that these are the check boxes, and she'll help. So, like, I think that whole self-discipline thing, if you can do it, great, awesome. But just like what you're saying on your brother came in and hit you over the head mentally with, like, that's good. That discipline didn't come from the self. It came from, what was his name again?
John.
Shout out to John. You had John discipline. You didn't have self-discipline. John discipline helped with self-discipline later, but it's good to have John discipline every now and then. So find those Johns in your world, and all of a sudden, and by the way, it hurt. Like, dude, I'm a loser? What the heck?
Oh, yeah.
Right. But John got you into that muscle memory. He got you thinking and got you going. So self-discipline is really, really difficult. John discipline, friend discipline, group discipline is a lot easier. Yeah. Can I ask you a question to lead us out?
Absolutely.
Why is it important for you to be in a school that allows you to have some choice and allows you to do things like this podcast?
I, on a very personal level, want more purpose, not just to myself and my family and those around me, but to maybe other people out of my field of influence that I wouldn't have known were even there otherwise. Yeah. I wanted the freedom because I wanted to be able to make a difference on a much deeper level in myself than I even thought existed.
I like that. I always need to hear these things because I'm so glad that Mr. Edge is helping all of us lead this. And that makes me happy because I'm trying to build these kind of hubs in every single school I can. And what really makes my heart sing is when people say, this has purpose to me. Not that learning important skills in math, science, language arts doesn't have purpose. It does. There's a fun building blocks in that, but I'm glad that you had this amount of time and this hub. So with that, this has been the Edge of Purpose podcast with your host. I don't know. You can wrap us up. This is your job.
This is the PPHS Lab podcast, and this was our interview with Don Wettrick. Love the guy. That's it for today.